Hey guys, Coach Yannick here. This week's Attaboy is going to Carter Mitchell. Carter's been working hard and has made lots of progress this year. I got quite a bit to cover here, so I'll just get right into it. On the screen are two of the first swings I recorded for Carter, kind of initially identifying what I was going to tackle first. Um, and on the left here, obviously the first thing I saw and I needed to address was Carter's over rotation of his shoulders here. He's almost 90 degrees, which is putting his bat in a very laid off position, below parallel. Obviously, as we know now, I've been talking about this all year, but nod to the catcher from launch kind of thing. So you can see that that was basically the first thing I knew I had to kind of tackle, as well as Carter wanting to get himself kind of way back here, right? Probably heard stay back his whole life and interpret it as that. All right, so obviously drag, but that wasn't the first thing I was going to start tackling. All right. And then spinning off the ball, kind of looking up here. So on the right was just another one of his early swings. Same kind of things going on. Bat parallel to the ground. Hands are too high, as we know from launch, right? We want roughly knob to the catcher, hands, shoulders, elbows on that same plane. So a lot of kind of launch specific issues at first that we needed to fix, as well as trying to get Carter a little more centered. All right. So a couple of things that I'll just point out here before I move on. We weren't really dealing with this early on in the year, but um, what we discussed with this wrapped grip where he's got no flex in that wrist, his palm is pointing straight at the ground. All right, so from there, his only move really is to tuck that elbow into his side to flip his hands over because we want that palm facing up, not down, right? So he kind of gets in this extreme drag position in a way to flip that palm back over. So now the palm's flipped back over, but it's put his elbow way out in front of his hands. All right, and then obviously working around, bat's exiting kind of below the shoulder there. All right, so again, I was going to say let's fix launch. Let's fix a little bit more in the center if we can, and not over rotate those shoulders. Get the bat in a better position. So I got Carter to put a ball on his shoulder. It's just going to kind of restrict a little bit of that turn, make him feel like he can't get in that super rotated position with the bat. Parallel or below parallel, that ball would probably fall out if he did that. So again, just focusing on launch, and there's launch position. Okay, so this was, I don't know, maybe a month or so later, and you can see the significant differences. Whoops, right away here from launch on the left, launch on the right. So we got his bat now in a much better position. All right, hands and shoulders now are in a better position. Elbows still tucked here, and that's just a function of drag. Again, we haven't talked about drag yet, but he's just getting his elbow ready to tuck it in and work around. All right, but again, so he's back as center. I would say a little bit better than he was earlier on, but definitely big time improvements in his launch position. I don't have the other video up, but it was even worse in terms of the bat across the line with these shoulders super rotated. You can see here shoulders are only a little bit turned to the pitcher is what we want, right? Versus on the right, very much over rotated. Again, I'm sure Carter's heard this his whole life. I know Mika has. Oh, you're too small. You're not strong enough. You really gotta compensate with these moves to try to hit the ball hard. And the compensation moves are trying to rotate everything to the extreme and using spin as your power source. Again, you're too small, you're not strong enough is total BS. It's you're not swinging the bat properly. And once you start swinging the bat properly, you'll see that the consistency of the power is going to come. So uh, I know Mika's heard that his whole life too, and it's a bit of a cop out, honestly, from the coaching side to keep telling kids that instead of fixing the obvious swing flaws that they have. Anyways, rant over. We'll keep going here. So, all right, fast forward to I think this is February. A couple swings Carter took. So on the right, it's off the tee again. Um, you can see his launch position is good, other than this elbow. Okay, but again, that's a drag issue, and we hadn't really tackled that too much with Carter. Mostly getting more centered, and you can see he's definitely a lot more centered than he used to be. He's still a little bit back, all right, but a lot better than he was. And then the other issue I was working with him on was staying on the ball, all right. So as you can see here, doing a better job. I'd probably want him more like that, but he's doing a better job. And what I didn't realize at the time was it was going to be impossible for Carter to stay on the ball with the amount of spinning he had going on with his body. So um, as we up the difficulty here on the left, I'm still seeing a good launch position. All right. Other than again that elbow, a little bit back, so it looks a lot almost the same as what it was off the tee. But on the ball, on the thrown ball, the ball moving, he's getting a little bit more off the ball. Okay, he's kind of looking up there. Again, that is a response to the amount of spinning he's got going on in his swing. So it's a response to the disconnection and the drag. So those are all kind of related issues. So there was really no fixing this until we started to tackle his drag. So happy with launch and where he's gotten himself there. It was time to move on to uh, fixing Carter's drag. So, all right. So on the left is an isolation drill where we take the lower half out because a lot of the drag is caused by what's going on with the lower half. And I guess it's maybe worth explaining this here quickly. But as Carter starts to spin, this here is rotating that way. Everything has a equal and opposite reaction. So this upper shoulder is rotating back this way. All right. He's kind of rotating across this axis here with a lot of spin. And that is contributing to this drag here. Okay. So what we're doing with these isolation drills is we're taking the lower half out. So now he can't spin with his lower half and he can just work on the proper feelings of his upper half. So a couple things to point out here is Carter's got his palm facing in the right direction, right? And he's just feeling like he's pulling the knob of the bat with his bottom hand this way. And the top hand is just along for the ride. All right, so as you can see here, he's just doing this drill. And right away, you're seeing he's getting himself into perfect positions here by just having that feeling. This arm's above the bat. That top hand arm is continuously extending out, never flexing. All right. So by limiting the lower half, we're allowing Carter to feel what it should feel like to pull the knob with that bottom hand out past the baseball and have that top hand just continuously extending. All right. Which is the opposite of drag. All right. This is lag. That's a lag position here. All right. Where the bat's here. That's lag, which is the opposite of drag. All right. This is the power source we want to use. And then I wasn't at practice, but Surrey was working with Carter here on the right on that drill I had posted a few months ago, just focusing on turning everything together, right? And you can see again here on the right, everything's moving together nicely to full extension. All right, the elbow never gets in front of the hands. He gets himself into a nice lag position here, but you can see this wanting to spin. All right, you can see that heel wanting to spin, but since he's not doing a full swing, it's not really causing him any problems. All right, so those are the drills Carter was working on, and it hasn't been that long. And this is the latest swing here. I'll pull up. So on the left is the latest swing that he's been taking. So I'll highlight a few points. Palm direction. Good launch position now. See his bat's pointing at the catcher. Hands, elbows, shoulders are all roughly in a line. He used to have his hands like up here. Sorry, he used to have his hands more up here and his elbow down here really. So much better positions. All right. And he is pretty close to the center. You know, Carter likes to work from behind that line, but he's, you know, mostly in the center there. Um, and then this is where the magic happens. Now, this is a pretty incredible amount of improvement. And again, we've been working on drag for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, like really actually working on it to get himself into this position with lag versus where he was, oops, at the start of the year in that same position. All right, I'll get rid of the lines. So again, elbow behind the hands, using lag as his power source instead of drag and spin. You can see here at that same position, his elbow is in front of his hands. So the difference here is, you know, borderline incomprehensible. The the complete difference is just crazy. So already here he's having a problem looking at the ball because everything is spun up, back out this way, whereas here he's using much less spin as his power instead of using lag as his power. So he's finding it much easier to stay on the ball. His chest is more on the ball. His hips are more on the ball. Versus here, his hips have fired wide open, his chest is fired wide open, and he's having a really hard time keeping his head on the ball because everything is working around and away. All right. Whereas on the left here, everything is working towards the ball. So everything's facing the ball. All right. And I'll take Carter on the left to impact here. And on the right. So again, there's just huge differences. And I mean, huge to me. I don't know if it's super obvious to you guys. It should be. But here he's on the ball. All right. He's got this arm nicely behind the ball. This arm's extended. Here he's almost staring at the ceiling because he has to, because his shoulders have opened so much that that's probably the best place he can have his head. He can't be on the ball because, you know, it'd be too hard on his neck. So everything is facing basically away from the ball, whereas here everything is facing down the line. All right, and it's just a result of of using lag as his power source instead of drag as his power source. All right, so see here he's still through the ball at that point, and immediately here on the right, you can see this is rolling over and the bat's flipping over. So is Carter done working? No, absolutely not. Now he needs to keep going so that this feels comfortable and he can trust this in a game. Um, because right now it's a new feeling, but he's made a, you know, pretty massive progress in at least the few weeks he's been dealing with drag. Um, and of course cleaned up his launch. And there's still, you know, there's still, if I was going to nitpick, of course, there's some things that we want to clean up with launch, um, getting more centered, getting this foot a little less wide open like that. Um, things like that. But the heavy lifting is going very well. So now I'm getting into the nitpicking stage. Okay. So anyways, keep up the good work, Carter. You're doing awesome, and we'll see you practice.